Salutations, everybody. It is Maddie here today with episode 186 of the H.A.M Radio Podcast.
And it's me, Karak with ACG.
Karak, we have a lot of topics, more than most episodes. So, ladies and gentlemen, we hope you're in a nice, comfortable seat, or maybe you're driving somewhere for an extended period of time because we are about to occupy a lot of your ear holes. So, let's get right into it, starting off with our standard introduction. Karak, let's talk about what you've been up to lately. What are some future plans for you? Lay it all on us.
Resident Evil review. Hopefully a Kingdom Hearts review. I'm going to do some streaming of some of the games that I haven't got a chance to review, but I got their codes. And once you tell them that like you won't be able to cover it, they're all, well, keep the code anyway. I hate that shit. So I'm going to start covering it now on the Twitch channel. And the Twitch channel's been really successful for that. So
awesome. That's
pretty much it right now, just concentrating on Resident Evil because there's a lot going on the remake. And by the way, if anybody notices and I appear to be disappearing and reappearing, it's because I put a green screen up because I didn't want to fix the fucking house today. I was lazy. So I'll look like a little bit corporeal to people watching. I apologize.
No problem, man. No problem. Anyway, that's good to know. I personally am looking to review Resident Evil and Kingdom Hearts this month. That's kind of on my platter. I'm making some headway on my secret project a lot faster than I really expected. Karak, you know all about it, but I've told you kind of about it as I've gone along with it, but I just want to let people know it's still something I'm consistently chipping away at. I don't have a window right now for when I want to announce everything, but it's just a lot of things have to start falling into place now, but like I said, I've made some headway on a lot of steps for what is pretty much like a 3-part plan. So it's going over well, just for those who are curious, and that's kind of been the main bulk of my focus. Other than that, it's been standard videos, looking to get streaming back up and running again. And like I said, a lot's going to change eventually. So if I'm quite honest, in a lot of ways, I'm for lack of better words, biting my time, just because I know there's a lot I'm going to be able to do to up the game, where I'm just trying to kind of keep consistently doing what I've been doing since, I'd say, September of last year, where I focus more on longer form discussions, news. I'm just staying there for now. So that's kind of what I've been up to as of lately. And then last
I wanted to add.
go ahead. No, I was gonna move into the flick a buck part, but hey, if you got more to say.
Okay. I do actually. When it comes to share, so I did do some testing on this. When it comes to podcasts in particular, when you're sharing this or whatever, like, comment, subscribe, all that. But one of the things that really helps is when you share directly from the YouTube page. If you share by copying the link of the video and you put it in Twitter, it's actually not connected in the same way normal sharing is. So I was just going to say, if you like to share, and sharing matters a lot when it comes to getting more eyes on a video, please share it directly from the YouTube page. If you guys want to share the podcast.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that goes with any episode or piece of content you're passionate about, because I know a lot of people who watch my channel or your channel consistently, Karak, they always go, man, I love your stuff. I wish I could support the Patreon. And ladies and gentlemen, never feel obliged for that stuff. It does help quite a bit. Don't get us wrong, but there are a lot of free ways to support creators without putting a dime out there. And one of them is, like Karak said, just sharing that link. It does so much. Leaving a positive comment, putting it on Twitter, that type of stuff. You know, is it a lot of additional work at times? Yeah, it takes probably 10 minutes out of your day in total if you do all that stuff, but it's a free way to support maybe content you're passionate about. And that goes for anybody, not just Karak and I. So just keep that in mind if you're someone who really loves a certain piece of content and you want it to get out there more, that you don't just always have to open the wallet up. There are many other ways to really reward the creator without spending your money.
Yeah,
anyway,
for sure.
If you do want to spend your money, then you can head over to mine or Karak's Patreon and flick a buck. It looked like Karak just drank out of nothing, like just something clipped into the screen.
Yeah, it's a Mountain Dew. It's just completely.
See it.
It's like, it's all the Invisible Man type of shit. I forgot. All my stuff's green, so that is that will happen.
Anyway, if you would like to go ahead and flick a buck. You can get early access to the podcast, Patreon exclusive content like videos, write-ups. What else do we have going on there? Patreon
Discord.
Gaming sessions. Yeah, the Discord, very important. Discord's like the best part of it all, in my opinion. It's just the bee's knees. Anyway, with that long introduction out of the way, let's get into what was the highlight, I think, for a lot of folks' weeks, and the biggest news. That was the Mortal Kombat 11 reveal. So there was a whole big event. There were invites going out. A lot of press went there. A lot of influencers went there. They had a whole exhibition tournament with professional fighting game players. And we got to see a lot of Mortal Kombat 11. It was revealed initially at the Game Awards, but now we saw a ton of gameplay. There are so many individual matches. We got to look at some characters. And now Karak and I are just going to kind of give our thoughts on what we saw and how we feel about it. I've personally expressed that in the past, when it came to NetherRealm fighters, I liked Injustice 2. I've always struggled competitively online with Mortal Kombat, or not Mortal Kombat, sorry, but with NetherRealm fighters in general. But I know, Karak, you've leaned more towards the side of loving them, especially Injustice 2. I personally, my favorite NetherRealm game, I think like a lot of people, was MK9, which we'll get into a little bit later, but I saw a lot of that in a sense in MK11. But Karak, let's start off with your thoughts. Did you get a chance to sit down and watch some of the MK reveal?
I did, and I told Grim, who's in in both of our Discords, that I finally got to test my UPSs for the computer too, because my power went out prior. So I was streaming in the dark. You could see me. It looked like a ghost streaming a game. I was just like, it looked like the Blair Witch Project, just the worst version. I did get to watch most of it and then had to return back and watch it recorded later. I will say this: my favorite is probably like Armageddon. I'm old style. I liked the old Mortal Kombat with the 3. I also like the 3 mini games because it got me to do something else, whether it was like Puzzle Fighter or fucking something, or create a character I liked. They certainly took Injustice 2's additions and put them in here with the loot system and, customizations and stuff in this one, and sort of a multi-universe kind of thought process here, which I think is, you have to. We talked about this. Once you did Injustice 2, you can't just go, here's Mortal Kombat, and it's the same shit. The only thing I did worry about when I saw it is it felt like it was ripe for microtransaction fighters. It seemed like more than normal for some reason. When I was looking at the roster, and I could be wrong on that, but when it got me a little nervous when I saw it. I was like, oh shit, because especially when they started, they showed all these blank sections and like 2 fighters or something. You're like, is this going to be like $10 and then you have to buy every fighter,
Are you talking
separately?
about like the characters that were yet to be unlocked or revealed?
Yeah, I was just a little confused on how they would get on. Are they going to be like buyable? Is there going to be a ton of microtransactions in it? Which I hope not. I think Injustice handled it fairly well. I thought overall what I saw looked good, but I'm exactly where I was with Mortal Kombat X, which is where I thought it looked enjoyable, but I'm right at 50%. Like 50% being excited, 50% not really caring, and I'm going to probably wait for the game or more videos, when they show more stuff.
Yeah.
It was gruesome, though.
Oh God, yeah.
It was more gruesome.
Yeah,
it was.
Absolutely. As for the, we'll start off with your first point about the roster. I get where you're coming from. What I've noticed with fighting games now, most notably Smash Brothers, but there's also Jump Force, which is coming out just next month, a little bit under a month now. And that roster is really big. And I've noticed that a lot of fighting games are starting to trend more towards character variation and a bigger roster because it just keeps the player going, which, I'm sorry, but it's obvious, right? Like, I'm not going to act like it's easy to do, but it's obvious. The more you give the player to mess around with, it's like Smash Brothers. I think I got 78 hours in that game at this point in time. I love it to death, and it's because every time I hop on, I have a main character I can go to that I'd say I'm pretty competent with and can compete with, but it's just clicking the random button and playing 3 hours of matches, and just knowing that there is such a wide amount of characters that are going to be selected from, it keeps it constantly interesting, because not one character, I don't want to say not one character in that sense plays the same, because all the Fire Emblem characters kind of have similar combos. But I think you're going to see that with Jump Force again. A game that's very pleasing to fans because there are just so many characters from each manga/anime series out there. And so maybe Mortal Kombat, because there's always the issue of like, character deaths and whatnot. And now they're doing this multi-universe thing, like you said, where I think this is their chance to really beef up the roster and pull from everything and make a really big roster that can do kind of what a lot of other fighting games are doing, like I said recently, and making constant fighting exciting. It's not just like, all right, I played 2 hours of Mortal Kombat, let's move on. As for the gore, what did you think about some of those fatalities? What was your favorite one?
I don't know if I have a favorite one. I would just say that because I've never been, I mean, I'm a fatality fan, but they went so overboard years ago that now they sort of, it's like once you see, like if you're an EMT, if you see dead bodies after a while, you probably doesn't impress you as much. This one, it wasn't necessarily the fatalities themselves. It was just, it seemed like it was more gory all over. Like I don't know if it was more blood, bits and parts, but it felt way more gory. And I'm not 100% sure that speaks to me. It depends on how it plays out. But that was all I noticed. And I saw it on Twitter. I said, what did people think? And it was like, that was the first thing everyone said was like, did they somehow crank up the gore? Like, and gore was the word used. So I'm going to have to go back and watch it and figure out why that verbiage in particular is being used.
Yeah, but, it was almost sadistically creative, which I personally like in my entertainment. Not to sound too twisted, but for example, Scarlet, her crushing blow. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know all the terminology for this game yet. I watched some gameplay while I was on my ride home from my flight from Florida, and then read up online before this show. So if any terminology is off, that's why. But there was like this crushing blow move, kind of like the X-rays from previous Mortal Kombat games. And she literally stabs you with a knife, and then when she pulls out the knife, you see blood pour out, and she takes this blood and turns it into a scythe, and then like spins around and stabs you with it. It's very dark. It's incredibly brutal. It's almost stunningly creative when you think about how someone had to pitch that idea, and then they had to actually put it into effect, and someone made that, right? It's kind of dark. Yeah, when you think about that being someone's job. And I guess as you get to know game development more, that kind of is what becomes a little unsettling about it. That there's like a process into making that become a thing, or Sonya Blade laying on her back, shooting someone up so far into the sky that they hit a helicopter blade, and it's like they just got tossed into the garbage disposal unit, and they're just mush.
Jetted out.
Yeah, like that's all there was. That's it. They're dead. Yeah, I liked it personally. I think that's what Mortal Kombat's about. I'm happy to see they didn't shy away from it, right? Because we've talked about games shying away from their identity and all that stuff, and it's good that Mortal Kombat didn't soften up. Because if I'm honest, not that any Mortal Kombat game is ever PG, but I was really disappointed with MK10 out of any NetherRealm game that's really come out in these last few years. Like I said, I liked Injustice 1. I enjoyed Injustice 2 quite a bit. MK9, my favorite NetherRealm game. But 10, I couldn't put my finger on what it was, but it was a very fast-paced fighter, and I think that NetherRealm fighters play best when they're more strategic and in your face, more close-range combat, like, for example, MK9. And that may be just personal preference on my end, but that's kind of where I sit on it, which I was reading an interview from Game Informer with Ed Boon, and they were actually talking about how they wanted to make a big focus with MK9 to be less on projectiles and more on getting the players to not just like jump in and attack all out like MK10 and try to do mix-up combos, but actually strategically approach one another and it to be a more close-range battle, which... as someone who, Karak, how many times have I bitched about getting shot with projectiles? Yeah. It was music to my ears.
But didn't you also think that they know that because they stated the weird shit about lower, mid, and upper like gauges? Like it seemed like they were taking into account some kind of anti-spam.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right, because you're talking about all the meters, right?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I said gauges. Yeah, all the meters.
I just want to make sure.
It seems like what you and I talked about a while ago, because we talked about this where I was saying, oh, they should have a meter that burns and you can only throw so many projectiles, then you have to combo up to get more or something like that. But it seems like they went a different route.
Right.
But I don't think they've ignored your complaints, because your complaints obviously aren't just yours. There are a lot of people's. It seems like that is there in some way to sort of... Because for example, one person's projectile maybe is always a mid projectile, right? And maybe in the past they spammed it. But here it seems like maybe they're might be a way to go, okay, fine, spam it, because then I have this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm right on that. It just
Yes.
seems like that's how it was built.
I think so, because when I was reading the interview with Ed Boon, same one from Game Informer, I'd seen all the meters on screen. It wasn't anything overwhelming, by the way, for those who haven't seen the gameplay yet. It wasn't anything like, whoa, why are there 50,000 meters? I
Right.
just had noticed like a difference in the HUD. And I obviously didn't know enough about the game at the time to really put together what was happening. But it turns out that one is for offensive stuff, because what they wanted to eliminate was having 1 meter that determined all these extra moves. Were in Injustice 2, you spend some meter to like roll out of the corner and have like invincibility while rolling out. So if someone's like constantly shooting you, you can have that invincibility dodge roll at them to get right to them without them hitting you at all, which is always good. But now what they're doing in MK11 is you have a defensive meter, you have an offensive meter. So let's say I wanted to spend some of that offensive meter to
Right.
do what we've seen in Injustice or any NetherRealm fighter, really, where you have your tilt forward, or not tilt forward, geez, too much smash. Your quarter circle forward B does one thing, but if you press RT while doing it, that burns some meter and does like a higher powered version of that move. So that'll burn some of your offensive meter. But let's say you want to dodge roll, like I said, that'll burn some of the defensive meter. And then
And didn't he? Oh, sorry.
no, I was just gonna say
Apologize.
no, you're good. The last one, I believe, like I said, I'm unsure, but I think it was the crushing blow one, which is attached to your health bar, which when it gets to a certain point, I think you press like two trigger buttons on your controller and it activates. And in a lot of the battles, that was a game changer,
Yeah.
because what would happen is in a lot of previous, not a lot, but in previous MK games, you could combo into that X-ray move, and if you did, it didn't do as much damage. But what I noticed with this game is when these competitive players did combo into it, they do like a 5-hit combo and then land this killing blow move, it would do insane extra damage, which I liked personally. I'm usually not a fan of give them the powerful move to get them back in the game, but I liked that you could combo into it because I think it rewards a player who's skilled, and it allows for a very close match, because what I noticed is the health bars have numbers attached to them. So Sonic Fox at one point had won a match when he was at 0.21 health. I thought that was really cool to see, especially when there's like a move attached to that part of the bar. It kind of puts a little extra tension on the match.
Yeah, and hopefully it won't turn into the thing that I know you disliked or weren't in love with the new Tekken, the new Soul Calibur, which was the Clash. Hopefully it won't be one of those kind of things. I couldn't tell too much about how it was it felt like a game changer to me, but I couldn't tell if people would force themselves to it and that would be the strategy, because that'll happen too. Like in a game where, you know, at half your health you're going to get some magic extra power, you know, to keep you in the game.
Right.
Like some people will purposely force themselves into that because they know that which is cool as long as it's not so overpowered. So there's some things there that I'm wondering about. I did like the fact that they said 3 frames is how many frames you need for a perfect block.
Wow.
And yeah, that's pretty small for people. I think for a lot of people, that's probably, we'll see how the animation goes. I think for some people that's pretty small. But when it's done, they said something about when that carries on into all combos. So the perfect block doesn't just do extra damage on the first hit. From what I understand, if you do a perfect block, from what I was reading, because this was a written interview that I read later,
Same.
it was like you do this perfect block, and then the extra whatever meter that you get as well as damage continues into the combo. They said something like it continues into the combo, which I would have to see it and sit down and sort of identify exactly what they meant by that. But it does feel like there'll be a little bit there for casuals and there'll be a little bit there for the hardcore, which as long as they skirt that line and don't fucking, you know, make it like too easy or too hard. I know a lot of people had issues with Dragon Ball Z's auto combos, even though I didn't, because you could, if you knew what you were doing, an auto combo, you'd be able to break out of it. Yeah, it wasn't as powerful. You would be able to figure a way around it. So,
right.
Yeah, it looked cool. I mean, I would say, I'm going to be honest, man, I was hoping, I'm probably the only person I was hoping for it to go 3D like Soul Calibur. I really was.
Yeah,
That's
I
the
had a feeling that they would, but what they did was sorry, I can't speak
opposite.
right now. It was the opposite. Not only that, but did you notice that it felt like the camera was zoomed in more than previous
Yes,
NetherRealm fighters?
yes, yes.
And that
I
was
did.
what I screamed to me most about MK9, because MK9 was very like almost 4 by 3. Like it was a
Right.
very tight point of view. And this one seemed, even when the fighters were on opposite ends of the arena, there was this perspective on the camera that still felt like it was a close shot, which I like, because I think that caters more to what Ed Boon was saying about we want it to be more close range combat. And I think MK's at its best when they're doing that stuff. Like I said, that is my personal preference. People know I can't stand projectiles. It works in certain fighters. Like I think Smash Brothers projectiles are handled the best in any fighting game when it comes to that title, because most of them are easy to dodge or just do a little chip damage. They don't interrupt combos. And you can't just win a fight solely off of them. You still have to get in there and hit someone off the stage. Whereas with health bars, I think projectiles can become a little more frustrating. So I like the approach right now to MK11. One thing that did kind of, I don't want to say disappointed me, but I saw in a competitive match someone was using Scorpion, and it was the same, teleport behind the guy combo, pull him in with the chain, destroy him. And I had wondered constantly, Ed Boon has this love with Sub-Zero and Scorpion, right? Like he always makes them good. I think was that a thing at some point?
No, I think it's for sure. I think it's for sure.
Yeah. And that, if that's true, because I don't want to, I'm pretty sure it is, because I remember seeing this multiple times, but if that's true, I think that's kind of, it disrupts a part of the game, because it makes, it's almost like the favorite child. You have Sub-Zero and Scorpion, who so much love and care. They made him filthy. They're gonna kick ass no matter what. And it's like everyone underneath them is like fodder. It gives that feeling. Is that true? No, but it gives that feeling to the roster where I instantly saw Scorpion slaughtering people with the same combos. I was like, oh, here we go again. And I would love to see that switch turned off and just have every character approach it. Sonya Blade was a part of the reveal, and they kind of did give her a special treatment because Ronda Rousey's going to be voicing her. But like, give these characters the same treatment that you would a Sub-Zero or a Scorpion. I know they're the face of the franchise, and they do have to be cool, and they do have to be out there in the promo. They're recognizable. I get the marketing aspect. I don't argue that, but I would love for them to really take into consideration that, where each character is treated as importantly, at least outwardly. Maybe in studio when they're developing these characters, more effort went into making Sonya Blade than Scorpion, because they made Scorpion a million times and they're reworking Sonya's variations or something. I don't know. But I would just love to see more of that, because like I said, it gives this feeling to the roster. Anyone I pick who's not Scorpion or Sub-Zero probably isn't optimal to win if I were to go play competitively, for example. Just my perspective.
It's mine too. I would love to see, in fact, like I've constantly joked about it in like the Discords and stuff, and been like, I would just love a Scorpion-less and a Sub-Zero-less,
I'd always
Mortal Kombat game. I want to see the side character. You can't have it both ways and say we're going to introduce all these amazing characters, but here's Scorpion and Sub-Zero, and you're like, okay, here we go.
Yeah. Right.
I'm sure there's a lot of people who are going to argue and be like, you can win with anybody, or there's this one character, like there's Jax who can do this or whatever, and I get that, but it does feel like there's a little bit of a masturbatory, love towards Scorpion and Sub-Zero that I would love to see rubbed off a bit on other people, because they've had some amazing and really interesting fighters in the past that I felt once you really played them, you're like, this guy isn't as amazing as, like, they sort of, maybe he looks amazing, but his moveset isn't the best or what have you.
Yeah. And
I would love to see somebody have a defense. I was just going to say, I would love to see somebody having a defense for like a lot of the tried and true moves, or at least I would have loved them to have shown it. Like, wouldn't it have been cool if in the battle Scorpion did do that, and then the next time he tried some new move that everybody has completely defeated that? Like, that would be awesome to have everybody go, what the fuck? Like,
right.
That it changes everything.
Right.
But
and I think part of it's more so that I'm sure Scorpion and Sub-Zero, when it comes to actual tiers, are probably just well-rounded characters, and they do
probably
little bit of everything. I'm not going to sit here and act like I know the competitive scene for the game. I guess it's just that for those trying to get into the game, those who are more, I'd say, beginner to intermediate. I'd say I class in fighters because I play them a lot. I class a little bit above intermediate, but I just look at it from the perspective it's hard to get into games where, because it's an endless loop. New player comes in, new player finds character that they think looks cool. They test them out in the training mode. All right, let's take him online or her online. They go online, maybe find some success, some failure, back to the training lab, back into online, and then they meet like that character, like a Sub-Zero or a Scorpion that beats them into a bloody pulp, and there's no hope whatsoever. And then the chain continues where they say, I'm gonna use that character, because all of us have been there. If you've ever played a fighter, there's a high chance you have gotten your ass beat by some character so badly you have wanted to play as that character, as if the performance on you was inspirational enough to make you drop who you were playing as for that character. And that's what happens with OP characters. It's just a chain. In Dragon Ball FighterZ, Goku Black, just more and more and more and more as time went on in that game. You just constantly see more and more Gokus because they were just the best in the game. They were disgustingly good. It just happens with these OP characters.
I also think, I don't know if this does this, so this is just my hope, but ancient games like Unreal Tournament had the ability to adjust the AI to be more jumpy, more projectile heavy, right, more sniper heavy, what have you. I would love for the training modes in these fighter games to say, do you want a guy who's not doing anything so you can practice the moves? Do you want a guy who just gets up? All the stuff you normally see. But I would love to see it be like archetype for your AI, projectile heavy player. Archetype for your AI, special move player, archetype for your AI, burn meter player. And so that way you could try to see, because AI rarely mimics a real player. It just rarely does. Mm-hmm. And even if it's on its hardest, it's more clinical hardness where it knows your moves because it's the computer, right? So it's going to know. But what if you get a projectile heavy but not good at blocking opponent? I would love to have far more ability inside of testing any of the, dojo level, whatever they're going to call it, to be able to minutely change those things so that I can adjust. Because let's say I'm playing you, and I've had this with friends. Somebody be Cage Maru in Virtual Fighter, and somebody else would be him. I knew exactly what to do against the person I played with all the time. But the new person, things were their timing was different. You knew what moves would probably come, but there was an adjustment. Right. I would like to be able to really go in there and say, and adjust a couple things so I could face off against, for example, there's expert players who forget basic moves. You've even heard expert players talk about it. Once you get really good, you'll forget the basic, and that's why sometimes a basic person will do well, at least for a starting, and people will be surprised and be like, whoa, he pulled off this shit move against this guy. You know why? Because the guy had been practicing all these other crazy things, didn't expect the fucking person who doesn't know how to play the game to smash two buttons together that don't make any sense. Right. I want to be able to replicate that.
Yeah, no, that's true. I think that training could go a lot further in fighting games. We're seeing a focus on more solo content in these fighting games, and it's excellent because I feel like it's almost a matter of time. Jump Force, for example, we're seeing like you can create your own character. There's a huge roster. There's going to be this whole story mode. That's awesome. And then you see, like I said, Smash Brothers. I won't go on another tirade about it, but it has a gigantic roster. So much fun. We're seeing variations. I think a similar multiverse customization from Injustice coming to MK11, right?
Yeah.
And so... Yep. There's this focus on single-player content, and I've seen good training modes before that really teach you the ropes. I think Smash's highest difficulty CPU is good enough to help you get better at the game to a certain point. Because there's just something with my brain in Smash Brothers where I'm just not I'm not very good at it, just to put it bluntly. Whereas other fighters like Dragon Ball FighterZ, I'd say I'm genuinely good at. And so training in Smash on that 9 difficulty actually, because I was away on vacation, so at night when my girlfriend and I were just chilling in our Airbnb, we'd either be watching TV or she'd go to bed and I'd just go on my Switch and I'd play on this 9 difficulty Smash CPU. And I came home last night and my friends and I played Smash Online together, and I took a good amount of the matches. Like, it's just, there is a way to get better. Yes, the CPU at times did just read my moves because they knew what my input was on the dot, so they just lined it up perfectly. And if you're aware enough to see that and just go, okay, like if I'm playing someone online, there's probably a 2% chance that actually happens. It can be very helpful. A good training mode was in I think, is it Blade Blue or BlazBlue? I'm gonna go BlazBlue. Not cross tag battle. Oh my god, I can't remember the name right now. It was the most recent BlazBlue that came out in BlazBlue that came out in 2015, but that had a really extensive tutorial, a lot of text windows, but it really taught you every fundamental of the game. So more thorough, interactive training bots, I think, could do a lot. And like you said, setting up archetypes and fighting against a certain type. Because sure, you can pick a character that you're struggling against, like Jax, and put on the specific variation and put him on the hardest difficulty and say, all right, I'm gonna figure this character out, and it'll help to an extent, but nothing's more helpful than just being sitting in that training arena. There's no worry about your life, and just watching like a move repeat over and over and over until you get just like everything frame by frame. Like, okay, he hops 1, 2, shot, and he can only do it after he's at a certain point. You'd think it'd just be a minor thing, but it makes the biggest difference. Really.
Well, let me give you an example. Forza Horizon takes your Drivatar.
Right.
So your friends, and I've seen this mimicked because I'm very bad at a particular turn type in street racing games. Very bad. Like I have to practice it before I do anything else. Otherwise, I won't get first. I'll get like 12th every time until like if it's got this particular type of turn.
Right on.
And one day, somebody who follows the channel, who is an expert Forza fan, a Forza driver, contacted me and was like, can I be friends with you on Xbox? And I accepted him and didn't think that his Drivatar would be imported. So I go in there and I'm like, and I'm used to my friends' Drivatars plus anybody else, that it sucks in. And I'm playing, and this guy, I mean, it was ace. It was like, whoa. And what the fuck's happening? So what I would love is for it to go and grab Maddie's Scorpion data. How does Maddie play? And take it and say, can choose a friend. Does your friend have Mortal Kombat-atar, fucking stats? And if they do, say, boom, I want Maddie in here. Because I personally feel all that does is increase the replayability of the title. Then the dojo mode is a playable mode, in some way.
You're right.
I told you I cheated. Well, I call it cheating. It's not cheating at all. But where I played Injustice 2's battle mode on 4 times its speed and watched it for 5 or 6 hours, because I knew that if I was so accustomed to it going so fast, when I went back into the game, it felt slow.
Smart man.
So those kind of things are awesome. I love those. And I would love for it to start sucking in data from imagine being able to go, I want to go and download the number 1 player's AI. So right. You would go to Mortal Kombat's database and go, and you find, I can't remember the guy, you said Sonic Fox, if he's good. I don't know if he's good at that game, but if he's good,
he's amazing.
Go, boom, I'm going to grab that guy's AI. And your archetype is, jumpy projectile, defenses, Sonic. And you get to click him, and you get to practice against him.
I like that idea a lot.
I love it. It'd be phenomenal. And all fighting games should have that.
I totally agree. That's a excellent idea, because what really hit the nail on the head is it went from just a training mode, like, okay, I'll get into this later, to like, that could be the first thing you hop into now.
Oh, fuck yeah, man. Training against people, seeing Ed Boon. I mean, it would be amazing to be like fighting against how Ed Boon fights. Right. I don't know if he's good. He probably isn't. But it would be still cool to say, I kicked the shit out of Ed Boon's, whatever it's going to be called.
That'd be actually really cool. That's a really freaking good idea. I hope they do that. I really do.
Yeah, I hope they or somebody does.
Because even to add on to that, as the game evolves, all of us, I think, at some point have played a fighter a bunch. At launch, you and I, okay, got to review something else. You drop it. Hey, I really liked the Mortal Kombat game. I'm going to go back to it. And you come back, there's been some patches, some character tweaks, a DLC for new characters. A lot has changed. And you hop in online, It's just not the same. How useful will that be there in that situation, too, when you come back?
Yep.
And you could
Do you want to update Sonic Fox's, Mortal Kombat-atar? And you're like, yes, I do. And now he plays different character, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, man. Pay us. We're gonna have a great idea here.
I think the Drivatar system in Forza, though not perfect, is is something so ahead of its time. It is technically like the AI you hear people talking about for everything else. I really do wish more companies would do that.
I agree.
I mean, the pawns, Dragon's Dogma, when I would import a pawn from like one of my friends, it played like my friend played. Like it did the things I expected this dumbass to do. You know, like one of my friends, I knew how he played. And the moment I jumped in with his pawn, I'm like, yep, that's him. That's exactly what he would do in this. I love that.
That's so funny. All right. That's the Mortal Kombat reveal. Next on the list, we got...
Oh, I got to ask you.
Oh, go for it.
I apologize.
No,
what did you think of what did you think of the stages shown? And did I miss it because I did not see any stagealities?
I did not either.
Okay.
I did not either.
Okay. What'd you think of the stages that you saw overall? I thought they were sort of bland.
Yeah, I was going to say that nothing popped out to me. I saw like a standard desert market one. I think it was a market. Might
Tomb or...
Yeah, I saw like a dark catacomb.
Yeah.
With like tortured things in the back. It didn't really spark any whoa, in me.
Okay.
Now, what I do kind of hold back my opinion on that for is because sometimes what adds to it is when you play the story and you get the context of that environment. That's why stages are cool. That's why Jump Force would be cool. That's why Smash is cool, because you're fighting on old and new stages, all that stuff. So that's why I kind of hold my tongue on that. Also, I'm not the biggest MK expert in the terms of its history. I've played a lot of MK growing up, and is it like my most fond memories? No, but it wasn't like I saw anything. It was like, that's that one from MK3 back in whatever. So that's also why I hold my tongue on that stuff until I actually know more about it.
Did you see any particle effects? So the last Mortal Kombat, you would hit the snowy tree and snow would fall down. I didn't see any levels with rain. Now, this might be a technical thing where they can't do particles, but I didn't, or I missed it, which, like I said, I lost half of the video. Was there any rain levels, snow levels? Remember the big waves in the last Mortal Kombat? The pier and the huge waves in the background. Was there anything like that?
I didn't see any.
Okay.
I did not see
Well, they're
any.
probably holding it back. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
I personally... I think there would be a rain level because I'm pretty sure in the initial reveal trailer for this game, wasn't it raining in that part?
Okay.
I don't remember, but yeah, I don't think I saw any weather.
I'd love to see different times, like we saw some in Injustice, daytime sunset. I would love to see some variations. I think stages are neglected, big time. They're neglected in DLC, other than your favorite Smash and a couple others. We never see DLC being downloaded as stages. I would adore to see a number of stages.
I can't think of any other. Dragon Ball FighterZ did a stage as DLC.
Yeah.
Not enough.
I would like to see many more.
Like they've done 8 characters, I think, at this point for DLC, and 1 or maybe 2 stages. I don't get it either.
Yeah, because look at Injustice 2, for example. You grab the fucking hog in the swamp in Poison Ivies or whatever I can't remember what creature. Oh, you grab an alligator. And you swing the alligator. If you had suddenly a new level, and so new people are being in, so you've got all these levels you're accustomed to, and you're like, oh, I'm going to download the fucking spaceship level, and suddenly, there's new things to worry about, new terror. I just think that's so far beyond what anybody. We just don't see it very much. It's usually like, here's another ninja, and you're like, all right. Here's this character using a special weapon that we knew you guys wanted. Okay, great. But if you had some pretty crazy environmental stuff, which Injustice 2 did with the multi-dimensions, the fiery worlds, I'd love to see that in Mortal Kombat. And I'm hoping that's what we see in the multi-dimensional stuff.
Yeah, I agree. Time shall tell. The game doesn't come out until April, so we don't got to wait too long. We'll have our answers very soon.
Earlier than I thought it was going to be, to be honest.
Very soon. Next on the list is Assassin's Creed Odyssey. So AC Odyssey has had some DLC drop, and there's been a controversy surrounding it. This is for the Legacy of the First Blade. Pretty much the gist of this story is that this game, a lot of people loved because it really had open choice, the way you tackle the world, the way you approach the story, and crafted your version of Cassandra Alexios. And now the DLC has come out. And in this latest episode, Ubisoft has had to put out an apology pretty much saying that they got it wrong, because what happened was that it contradicted everything that the first part, not the first part, but the game itself set out to do. Pretty much, we have Cassandra or Alexios who was forced into a relationship. It's not like you can say yes or no. You are put in this relationship for story reasons, which we will not spoil. There are not going to be any spoilers for the DLC for those who do want to play it. But pretty much the gripe that fans had was that we have this game in its base version that presents limitless choice and lots of dialogue options. And in this one, you are put in a relationship whether you like it or not, which contradicts one of the kind of running jokes, but also themes of this game, which was like banging whoever you wanted. And all of a sudden the DLC comes out and you don't have a choice that you're going to pretty much marry this person or whatever, which I thought was pretty mind-boggling. Ubisoft pretty much said that they like had a reason for it story-wise, but understand that they really did screw up. And I think and the message was from the director too, which to me says a lot more than if it was just like a PR statement, because when the director gets involved, I feel like that's actually owning the mistake, because that is someone who really, they shaped the project. They put their heart into it. And if that is the case, well, not if that is the case, but since that is the case, I feel like they genuinely just misinterpreted where this game should go after it had finally come out. But what do you feel about this controversy?
Yeah, it doesn't bother me.
Mm-hmm.
It was stupid. Somebody in the development room, we always talk about, like, man, I wish I was there, because I would have slapped somebody the moment they said we're going to change and remove your choice. I would have been like, the fuck? It didn't need to be covered in this game. It didn't need to be covered in the DLC at all. And they did that, and then their idea made perfect sense. They wanted to tell the story about, the bloodline.
Right.
Which I get. I truly get. And no matter how much scissoring two women are going to do, you're not going to have a baby pop out. So you do have to figure out how to get a man and a woman to have a kid. And they forced it. And it was a big mistake. But it was a big mistake. That's another thing. It's not like they woke up and said, let's fucking piss everybody off. Like, I got an idea. They made a mistake. It was sort of clueless. And to me, that's about it. Like, when he said, oh, yeah, we made a mistake, I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, yeah. I just don't get that invested in that kind of stuff. They made a mistake. That kind of shit happens. And hopefully, I think Ubisoft is one of the few companies I can say that I fully feel that they listen and they pay attention. Mm-hmm. So I feel that next time this comes around, Ubisoft will go, that'll sort of put us in a bind. Or they do the other thing I suggested on my podcast, which was they'd choose a canon and non-canon ending. And the non-canon ending would be that you don't have an heir.
Right.
And you say the canon ending is that you do have an heir, and you just move on from there. You could do either one. It would be fine. It's just they wrote themselves into a corner on that one. Like,
yeah, precisely.
Somebody there had to have been like, I'm a chick and I've only been fucking other chicks. Like, how's this going to work exactly? I wish somebody had done that.
Yeah. Do you think this is easier to digest for fans because the base game was so good that, when the DLC comes out, it's a flop. It's not as bad as a situation, we'll say with Unity, where that game came out and there was a lot of technical issues with it, and so people were very, very upset about it. And then if that DLC came out and it was also bad, that's like, oh, here we go again. Whereas with Odyssey, we have a great game that a lot of people enjoyed. It made it into a bunch of categories on the Game Awards, but the DLC just fell short because of not technical issues, but just bad design choices in a sense.
And I would go so far, Maddie, as to say one bad design choice, because the other parts of the DLC are great. Yeah. So that's the other thing. Like, but is a book good if its ending sucks? That's a fair question. So I think it's fair people get upset by it. Mm-hmm. But I think overall, I think they just thought they had an idea and they thought it was good, and that happens. How many times have we put a video up and we're like, this is a good idea, and maybe we tell 10 people, maybe you tell me and I tell you, and I think it's a good idea, and you do it and you're like, that wasn't a good idea. Mm-hmm. It shit happens. I do think that maybe because it went so well, that's why some people are like, oh, but I also think it's because it's not necessarily a huge issue. Like, it is, but it isn't. I mean, I get why people are upset. They made a mistake, but in the long run, it doesn't change my experience with the game. It doesn't. Yeah. It doesn't like magically ruin the fucking how many hours Odyssey took that I really loved.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it'll damage the product image. In fact, I hadn't heard anyone really talking about Legacy of the Blade until this
Yeah,
controversy
me
started to
neither.
pop up,
It's a
which was
very
I
good
thought
point.
was strange. Whereas Origins had it seems like a lot of buzz around like the discovery mode and then the what was it, Anubis DLC. I felt like there was a lot of attention dragged to that, where this one almost quietly released. Do you think they knew?
Yeah.
Maybe they were like, we kind of fucked
No,
this
because
up.
their last DLC they did was good, and no, I don't think they feel that way. I do think that Origins was not only a different game than any prior title, so it was easier to be excited about the DLC. This is now the second version of this kind of open world game, and Odyssey's
Right.
so long. I don't think a lot of people even. I mean,
Got
dude,
to.
well, come on. What is it like? 2% of people get a platinum on their games or something like?
I'm
It's
friends with
so
someone who
low.
platinum it. I salute. I tip my cap to you, OBJ. He did it, and
Oh,
oh god, I don't know
yeah,
how.
he's my god because I don't know how.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think some people also didn't even get to the DLC yet. Maybe they're waiting for an all-in-one package that will assuredly come out.
Hmm.
So I think that you're right. I didn't hear much about it until this came up,
Yeah.
and it's certainly a valid discussion topic.
Oh, absolutely. You kind of caught my interest on the discussion of like, is a book still good if the ending is bad? And it really fits the theme of our discussion here well, where we could really get into that for a little bit, because I get, for me, the ending means a lot more than I think for most gamers, because it's not, for me, it's almost like the cherry on top. And the same could be said for DLC, right? I know, for example, Spider-Man. Spider-Man came out, it was really adored by fans, and then The City That Never Sleeps, the first part came out, and people were like, more of the same. It's good, but it's really short. And to me, that doesn't sour my view on the product, but I would be lying if I said there wasn't a little bit of tainting going on, right? Like if I wasn't like a little, I still think Spider-Man is one of the best superhero games ever made, and I still think it is my favorite Spider-Man game of all time, hands down, bar none. That doesn't change. But do you ever get that with a product where some DLC comes out, it's not as good, and suddenly that game that I'm in love with, I don't really want to go pick up DLC wise. I'd rather just go
Yeah,
and play the base game again.
an entire series, Mass Effect.
Oh yeah.
Mass Effect was my favorite series of all time, and now I can't play it. I played through Mass Effect 1 and 2 so many times. I don't even. It would be embarrassing to mention the number.
Mm.
And once I played 3 and got to the ending of 3, I put it down, and I remember thinking, I'm not going to return to it at all. I think the difference is that where Odyssey is about choice, this was one smaller, situation
Right.
than Mass Effect's ending.
Yeah.
But
Much smaller.
that's why I always say I get where it's a valid discussion point, because if somebody does feel it's as big as I did with Mass Effect 3, I understand their righteous anger or unrighteous anger, whatever type. But I do understand it. I don't personally feel it as in depth as they do, but I do get it. I also think that this was the problem with DLC that's happened lately. DLC that injects itself partway into a story, especially DLC of games that have their own sequels already made, which these all do, runs into this risk all the time, making a choice that is not considered canon by the fan base, or making a choice that doesn't make sense. So I think we will see this. You could see it with Witcher. If Witcher did a prequel to Witcher 3, there would be something in there that would piss people off. They'd be like, well,
Right.
why? So I get it. I get it both sides.
The thing with-
I side with the
Sorry.
people who think there's no issue, and I side with the people who think there's for sure an issue. It's just,
Right.
for some people, this will bother them.
Because the thing with Assassin's Creed is, and the reason I really resurrected that topic that you'd brought up is because when you look at like what happened with AC3 and onwards, a lot of fans were very like, ugh, Assassin's Creed, but when it came to the real Animus storyline, and since then, even with Odyssey, it's just like, who cares? Just throw it out the window. Like, you could tell the developers feel that way, because I think you exit the Animus, I think I exited twice that
Yeah,
whole
you do.
game. And
I think that's all.
it just never happens because it's unimportant. And so the bloodline stuff, it's like, I know this doesn't tie to the Animus, but how it's more interesting when Assassin's Creed focuses on its self-contained stories within each entry and builds off of those. So I know that's part of the vision with this DLC, but I think there were a lot of other ways they could have gone with it instead of taking that route that you just brought up about, there's the sequel of the story already there. It's already in existence, and they're trying to fill in that gap. I always think that's a really dangerous line to walk for developers, trying to always, find the little hole in the lore and be like, this is where we slot in, because it's just a puzzle piece that never fits properly every single time, I feel.
And it's a puzzle piece that isn't required.
Yeah.
You don't need to show that part. You just let it lie and you move on. It's not.
It reminds me of
seems like a
76,
small deal.
Fallout 76. I just remember
Right.
where it was set in the timeline. There was like a lot of just issues with the lore that people were resurrecting, and there were defense posts being made about like, well, here's, if you look at this Fallout Bible, here's why this works, and there were people who were countering that with the same source, going, here's why it doesn't work. And it's just like when you try to find that ideal part in a game's timeline, just to slot in a game's vision, I feel like that's when they start to run into just initial issues. It happens all the freaking time.
Yeah.
It's
That's
hard
why,
to think
like
of a
I said,
positive example.
Ubisoft does a pretty good job listening. So they've done a good job with their games as service stuff. They've done a good job with pretty much, and was super negative after Unity, for example.
Yeah.
So to me, I feel like this will just be where they look at it and they're like, okay, man, yeah, that was we got to think these things through whenever we want to make this decision. And I think slotting into that small section was their disaster point. Like that was the stupid part. Was slotting that in. And I don't know why people who are working on DLC don't have a person whose entire job is to poke holes in their ideas.
Yeah,
but for example,
I feel like most of the time with writing, it's about the team is focusing on what works for them, and they want to keep it a secret, so because the writing is really, that has everything you need to know about the game, right?
Right.
The dialogue, character interactions.
So you think the compartmentalization of data is what causes the issue?
I truly think so, yeah. Just trying to keep things under wraps is what keeps everything so confined, and you can't poke a hole in a story if you know nothing about it. And that's why you just trust in the talent of your writers, hope that they put together something cohesive, that makes sense, that fits into their universe well, that doesn't feel forced, and so on. And hope that there aren't any holes to be poked in there. There's the QA process, which maybe when someone's playing a vertical slice of the game, they go, well, what the fuck does that mean? I mean, I can't imagine the Hideo Kojima Death Stranding game that, I wonder if that's a part of the QA process. Like, hey, Hideo, this game makes zero sense. It looks cool, and it's fascinating in its concept, but this makes zero sense. Like, it doesn't look like that's a part of his QA process, you know what I'm saying? So I think it depends on maybe the product, because he's known for his, I don't want to say nonsensical, but his bonkers storylines.
No, they're completely nonsensical. It's fine to say. Yeah, I think that makes sense, and I think that the director, the reason why he apologized is technically he's the person who should have poked a hole in it.
Right.
He is the director. We've had producers on the channel and done interviews with them, and with their lead developers in the same room, and the producer has stated stuff like, you don't even need a programming degree to do my job. You actually need to understand all of the elements. So that person most likely should have looked and said, are we sure? And here's the thing, just because somebody pokes a hole doesn't mean somebody else would explain it away and it would make sense too.
Right.
Like, and maybe that didn't resonate. Maybe they didn't figure out a way to make it resonate, because I haven't played the DLC. So maybe there was a chance there that they could have made all this make sense. Like, was it a part of duty? Whether you agree with that being a thing or not, maybe back then they did. But yeah, it's weird. I think it's all caused because of what they tried to do, which was explain the main genesis of the entire thing. And they should have just left that for storytelling.
They tried to do what Burial at Sea did, pretty much, in a much different way.
Or the Star Wars movies, the prequels.
Yeah.
Leave Anakin out of it. Darth Vader's your thing, and just go to your next movies. Skip the Genesis, because that's where a lot of these issues do come about.
Exactly, because I think Burial at Sea to this day is still the
best. That's the BioShock.
Content. Yeah. That is still the best downloadable content I have played in my entire life, still to this day. So, for folks who thought I was a little overly negative on the whole Bloodline storyline here, don't get me wrong. I'm always good for bringing it full circle. I am always good for that, especially since playing that. It's just a matter of how you do it and how well it's executed, because it can be executed well. Like I said, Barry, let's see. You want to see perfect execution of taking a series from start all the way around, back to the beginning again. Play Burial at Sea after playing Bioshock 1 and Infinite.
But that's the
insane.
difference right there. You just said, drawing it full circle. If you can't draw the circle, then you didn't do it. Yeah. And Assassin's Creed didn't get the full circle.
Assassin's Creed is like a jagged line.
Yeah, Assassin's Creed got sort of like a crescent moon, and then we're like, fuck. So I think that's the difference between the Bioshock one. They got the full circle, made sense. Overall, it all fits. Plot lines work. And for, they missed.
Mm-hmm. They missed.
I mean, in the long line of games that we've all lived through, this does not matter. It's just like, yep, they missed, and you move on.
I'd rather them miss here, learn their lesson, move on, and apply their new lesson to
mistakes make you better.
Game. Yeah, exactly. Apply it to the next game. This is a good thing in a scheme of things. So I'll take the storyline mistake here for a better Assassin's Creed next time around, because the AC's been getting better and better. So let's hope they just continue that process.
You never did Syndicate's Jack the Ripper DLC, I'm assuming.
I did not. I did not like Syndicate that much. I thought that was such an average game.
Dude. Oh, it's amazing, first of all. But ignore that. The DLC, best DLC ever.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the DLC was amazing. You thought Syndicate was amazing?
No. I thought Syndicate was amazing. I'm saying the Jack the Ripper DLC. You said you thought the Bioshock DLC was probably the best, and I haven't got a chance to play it. So, like you haven't got a chance to play this. Jack the Ripper DLC for me is easily the best DLC ever made. Wow. Like, it beats Witcher 3.
What's it about?
Jack the Ripper. Yeah. That's all I can say. Dude, all you can say. It'll blow your mind. Like, because did you play all of Syndicate?
Yeah, I reviewed it. Yeah.
Okay, so you remember Spring Heel Jack the Ripper in the game as certain characters you're trying to track down? Do you even remember any of that?
Oh.
Just barely, I assume.
Yeah.
I'll just say it. Yeah, dude. Read a summary of it, and you're like, "What the fuck?" It's fucking delicious, man. Shit is a great set of DLC. But if you weren't a fan of Syndicate overall, then it probably wouldn't resonate.
It's got some like average reviews. These screenshots look really cool. Wow,
all of the DLCs for all of the fucking Assassin's Creed games seem to have tepid reviews, though. I've noticed. Like any DLC I've liked,
I think a different team handles it. Except Freedom Cry, I think that one did decently well for 4.
Freedom Cry.
I think that was an expansion, a mini expansion kind of thing for Assassin's Creed 4.
I think it's also just the fact that it's never a full game, and it's easier to ding it. I like, even the DLC I've done has never come close to the main games of any games I've played, except for that one single one. And I've played a lot of DLC. I think it is different teams a lot of times, but also it's because it's not a full contained game. Mm-hmm. And they come out later a lot of times. So you jump back into it and you're like, level 30 guys, and I'm level 30, but I don't remember the moves or whatever, and you spend an hour getting your ass kicked, and that can sour you too.
Right on.
But yeah, very cool.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, next topic we've got on deck is EA. Oh boy, here we go. All right, so EA canceled a open world Star Wars game from what was it, EA Vancouver, I want to say?
Yes, because the Respawn is still making theirs. Yeah.
And I went on a whole rant to my girlfriend before recording a video on our Airbnb and then posting that from my phone, because I was just that bothered by this. I just thought that, like, their incompetence with the Star Wars license is so infuriating. It's hands down like the worst video game deal I've ever seen. But like I said, I ranted about enough, and I'll rant again. But Karak, I want to get your thoughts generally on this whole deal.
Like Scalebound, which, sorry to inform people, was testing like absolute dog shit. When a company cancels something, it is looking at it and deciding, can we complete this? EA couldn't with whatever team they put together. It just didn't work out, which sucks. It sucks, but I would rather have a cancellation like this where everybody keeps their job, which they've made clear has occurred. Nobody's lost their jobs, and in fact, I would assume some people probably help out Respawn in some way. To me, it sucks. It's obvious that they can't get their shit straight. But I think a canceled, possibly good Star Wars game is far better than a shitty Star Wars game.
Right.
So to me, it sucks, but I don't get too caught up in what like could have maybe been made and then isn't going to get made. Usually I'll just be like, that sucks, and move on. We just heard this morning somebody said KOTOR 3 had been attempted multiple times. I can't remember who I saw it on Twitter. I think it might have been Jason Schreier even, who stated that he had heard that it had been attempted. It is depressing, but I move on pretty quickly because it's like you don't really know what that end product would be. It's obvious they can't handle it, or they're not handling it right.
Know, I think I'm in your train of thought. A canceled game that could damage the license even more at this point, or the brand rather, is far more harm than good. But on the other end, there's a reason that they just completely shut down Visceral.
Yeah.
And there's a reason this got canceled, and there's a reason that within 6 years we've gotten only 2 Battlefront games. Like, there is a reason behind it, and I think the core denominator, or the common denominator here, is EA. They are involved in every situation, and there's just something not flowing well with this Star Wars deal. It's especially because one of their probably best products when it comes to Star Wars was one that was made before the deal, which was the Old Republic. That's an MMO that continues to improve. That is, I say it now that I ate my words. I thought it was pretty fun for the time I've continued to play it. It is a solid MMO. And that's someone who is like a KOTOR elitist in the sense when it comes to the Old Republic. I'm like, yeah, the Old Republic's but KOTOR, it's like, all right, I like what the Old Republic's doing. But like I said, that's their best thing to show. And it's not even from the brand deal. So the only things to show from the brand deal was one, a very shallow shooter that was incredibly disappointing, and the other, which looked to be a very big step forward for EA, and it ended up having a lot of pay-to-win monetization issues where they spent the majority of what could have been post-launch support for a great game getting rid of a lot of the bullshit that was involved. And now that's why we're only just here in this month seeing more content drop for the game. And Grievous came out a month or two ago. Like, it's finally getting started, but it's, I don't want to say too late, but it definitely could have benefited a lot more if this was all happening in March of last year rather than January over a year later, right? So that's the thing, man. This deal it's just fucking awful, and I think Disney's got to take some blame for it too. If I'm them, they're probably looking at it like, oh, we're making money off this deal, but it's like, imagine if you did what Marvel did and went like to different partners all across the world and said, you know, we could see them making an open world game, them making a horror game, them making a strategy game, and so on. Imagine if they did that, how much more they would make if they put that extra level of effort in instead of just leaving it in the hands of EA, who just continues to fuck it up, it feels.
Well, and remember, Disney fired their entire Star Wars development team too, because they were doing Disney Infinity 2, which was based on Star Wars. Mm-hmm. And they fired everybody without a second thought. I mean, they went from like, we're fully doing this to nothing. Not we're fully doing this, but toys to life isn't working out, so we're gonna switch something else. They just cut it. My personal opinion is that people don't get with Disney is that Disney is fully invested in mobile games. Mm-hmm. And so that's why you see a ton of Star Wars mobile games. And Disney is probably far less interested in what goes on in the 3 to 4 plus year development cycle of a AAA game. And so to them, EA paid them the money, and they're just like, okay, whatever, make your games. And they're working or they're not working. I don't necessarily think they are even, I mean, they got their money. They're going to get their money. They could have got more, obviously, because I'm sure they have a back-end deal for sales. But I think overall, it just feels to me like Disney's completely not connected to gaming in the way you and I are.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like whoever's there. I mean, and I didn't know, I don't want to say that, but I was friends with on Twitter and talked in DMs sometimes to people who worked at Disney on games prior to them shuttering that company. And it was like, there were some issues, boom, you're all done. I mean, it went from like full court, we're going to figure out shit, to zero. And it feels like that's the way a company as big as Disney is that the piddling millions they could be making from EA on better games, they're maybe making back on mobile. I mean, and obviously all their mobile games are filled with microtransactions.
Yeah.
So I don't think they had an issue with EA doing it. They did state some stuff, and I remember when EA had the huge issue with Star Wars Battlefront, I remember Disney did have a couple comments. I just don't think that they see it as like that big of a deal. I think they're just waiting it out, and then once, who knows? I don't know how long the deal is. How long do we know how long the deal is?
10 years.
So is it 10 years?
2030.
Wait, what? 2023. Sorry, yeah. I thought you said 2030, and I was like, what the fuck?
No, okay. God, holy fuck.
Yeah, I have a feeling they'll just, they'll wait it out. Yeah. They'll get a game or two from EA, but they'll be podunk games.
Yeah, man. Because here's the thing. I have some confidence in the Respawn game, because Respawn is a very good developer. Mm-hmm. I like Titanfall 2, Titanfall 1, sorry. I didn't play a lot of Titanfall 2, not because I didn't like it. I didn't have time for it, and it's one I never got around to, really. I played some of the multiplayer. I thought it was fun, though. But that was really it on that. But it was still, I know, based off what people talk about with the game, like, it's a really good game. So I have some confidence that when they get their hands on a Star Wars game, it will be fun. And
right.
I think it will be good. I trust it will be good, rather. What I'm nervous about here is that Disney's going to see EA really, pump it up a little bit in these last 4 years of their deal. And we're going to see a lot of games start to come out. And maybe they end up being solid, where Disney goes, well, these first 6 years were like fucking hell, but these last 4 years have been incredibly lucrative, and do they renew the deal with them? That's what terrifies me, where they kind of make use of some recency bias and go, well, lately it's been good. Also, EA reminds me, this deal in Disney kind of remind me of Marvel in the mid-2000s. Like having the deal with Activision, having like Beanox make 1,000,001 fucking Spider-Man games, and none of them being good. The difference here is that Activision and Marvel, they were just churning out games left and right, and all of them were incredibly average. Whereas, at least with EA and the Star Wars deal, either something gets canceled or what does come out is at least trying to swing for something AAA. It's just a matter of, it could be so much better if they just took because put it this way, man, when Marvel screwed their head on and they started seeking out developers, I mean, think of how much money. I would go to the length of saying that they made more money off of just that Spider-Man PS4 game and the deal with Sony than any fucking Spider-Man game that came out in like the last 5-6 years combined. That game made stupid amounts of money for good reason. It's not only a good game, it's a good-ass Spider-Man game, and Spider-Man sells. It seems like Disney just doesn't get the brand they're working with, where if they understood, hey, this is a license that can sell like hotcakes, even more so than it already does, if we take the time to play some games and have a vision and pitch that vision to a studio. Imagine Platinum Games making a lightsaber-focused action-adventure title. Holy shit, right? There's so much room for opportunity, I feel, that's just not being seized. Not that EA doesn't have the studios underneath them. I know BioWare isn't for everybody, myself included. Who else is there? Visceral would have been a fantastic one for a more tense horror experience. They're gone now. I like the idea of an open-world Star Wars game. Yes, DICE making a shooter Battlefront multiplayer game. Makes sense. I thought EA, initially when this deal happened, had the tools to get something cool done here, but they're just showing a lack of being competent with it. And it's infuriating. I could go on for days about how stupid I think this deal is.
Yeah, I have a feeling they're treating it a little bit like stocks, that for some reason when you buy them you get a little bit of money back because they sold their IP to EA. I'm sure they got upfront money, and then if it goes bad, they don't lose anything. If it goes good, they gain stuff. And I think that the upfront was what probably got them into it, because I would assume EA paid a lot.
Yeah.
So EA pays enough to offset the closing of their own company, which was I can't remember. I think it was Avalanche Software. It was was it Avalanche something? Because there's Avalanche Incorporated, Avalanche some. Yeah, there's 3 Avalanche, and I believe their company was also Avalanche. So they got canceled, and it just feels to me like they're sitting back and like they got their return on it. Now, when it comes to recency bias, I agree with that, but also there is the thought process that EA could get better. So in those 4 years, depending on the success, I could see Disney saying, okay, they did learn their lessons. It is working out now. Let's continue now. It's gonna, like, that's what happens when you take a chance on something. Like, we just have no clue what's going to happen. I also have no guarantee whatsoever that Respawn's Star Wars game won't be sent out to die like Titanfall 2 was and be released on the same big, day as some other title.
I call it the Tomb Raider effect. Respawn's got that Tomb Raider effect.
Yeah, and it was a massive title for them, remembering that Titanfall 1 has now sold more on the original Xbox and being platform exclusive than Titanfall 2 has yet to sell. Which goes to be like, whoa, fuck.
Yeah.
Like, it's just pretty crazy stuff, man. I mean, would they be better with somebody else? Probably not a big company. They'd probably be better with a small one, but I don't think Disney has never indicated that they want to be involved that heavily. They want to just put out money and have one person take care of everything. I don't think Disney even has. Yeah, I don't think Disney even has the infrastructure for multiple people to go to multiple companies. A mobile company, that's what's your game? It's going to be like this. It's going to do this. We can flip it in 6 months. Okay, great. But a AAA company, open world, massive game, that's a long fucking time. And then you have all these weird shit rules you have to run around with Star Wars 2 that you don't in a lot of other games. They have all their canon rules. Look at Old Republic. Like, it's considered one of their popular games, and it's not even canon. Yeah. It just exists in a vacuum somewhere. A very popular, very successful vacuum, but a vacuum somewhere. It's so they're in a weird system. They're in a weird situation.
Just sad, honestly. Yeah, that's the thing. It's just sad. I totally agree with earlier what you said. Like, okay, cancel a game that may not have been that good is better than just releasing a shit one. But it's just, there's just this curse with Star Wars, and it started with 1313 of cancellation. And I think it just leaves the constant lingering of what could have been, where each time it happens, it's like tearing open that same old wound again. It's like, damn, again, just the idea. Like, I've always wanted to see an open world Star Wars game. I don't know a single Star Wars fan who doesn't want to see that. So when you hear, it got canceled, it's like, damn, man, again, this is another cool
Do you know
idea,
what
like
I see them
1313.
doing? I see them, and 1313 was farther along than anybody knows. That game was very far along from at least the 2 contacts I have. But what I was going to say was, I could see them doing another Force Unleashed kind of game. I'm not saying exactly that, but a linear left to right, battle game telling a story, and that was technically sort of what this new one sounded like before they canceled this one too. Yeah, not this latest one that got canceled. Like, some of the stuff that they were talking about sounded like it was a little bit more contained, a little bit more, a little less open worldy, a little bit like more digestible. And then that even got canceled.
Yeah, man, it just makes you wonder what do they want? What works, right? And they've said before, we believe in live service games and that type of stuff. And
I think they thought Star Wars Battlefront was going to be it, dude. I really do.
Yeah.
I believe that since we know it actually played well, it just was chock full of bullshit. I think they really distinctly were like, this will be the shit for us. And instead, it's set them back by multiple years.
It is the shit, literally.
Except for now, right? I think people are saying it's very good now, but no one's going to go back to it.
I played it a month ago, and it is fun. I said it at launch when I reviewed it. I said, this game is fun. It's just that it's mired by microtransactions and bad balance because of that. And now it's a little bit tougher to get in just because of a lot of people having their, what are they called? The little skill cards. There's an actual term for it, but those are fully leveled up, so you can get outclassed real easily. Even now, there's a bit of a balance issue. It's a shame, really, because Battlefront 2 has massive potential. And it is an enjoyable game if you are, in the right lobby. And you're not playing players who have, like, insane star cards. That's what it is, insane star cards. It's not as bad as it was at launch. There has been a lot of tweaks made to it, a lot of ways to upgrade it and get yourself into it, but it does take a little bit of struggling at first before you get into that. There's a lot of fun modes. There's a 2v2 heroes versus villains mode that I love to death. It is a fun game. That's the sad part. All right.
Yeah, it sucks.
Next on the list, the real fighting game announcement that came out is not Mortal Kombat, but on that same day of the reveal, a ballsy developer decided to announce that a Power Rangers fighting game is coming in April too. So not only the same reveal date, but also releasing in the same fucking month. That is a set of nuts, I swear. But anyway, this is going to be a $20 fighting game. It comes from the developers who made Power Rangers Legacy Wars, which is a mobile fighting game. This is their first crack at making a console game, I believe. It's going to be on the Switch, PC, PS4, Xbox One. It's going to cover the 25-year history of Power Rangers, so likely we're going to see renditions of Power Rangers from different eras that all of us have grown up in. Yeah, and that it's a $20 title. Some people are like, it looks like shit. And I go, I think actually you said it was bad too. I don't know. Does it change your perspective a little bit seeing it's $20, or do you expect better for a $20 title?
Oh, no. I mean, price definitely can impact like what I expect out of it, for sure. Mm-hmm. And it's not out yet. So it's like, who knows what, graphical passes they'll do. So yeah, it does look like, it does look pretty terrible right now, but who knows what'll happen, especially in a quick turnaround like this. I mean, and also it's Power Rangers.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure how much I'll be into it anyway, but I'll check it out regardless.
Yeah, I grew up with Power Rangers, and it's the thing that it's a title I call that you didn't know you wanted. Every time I see something Power Rangers related, I always research it. I remember there was a recent Power Rangers 2D game that came out. Did you review it? Maybe? No, right?
Did I review the Power? There was a Power Rangers one, and I did play it. I don't remember if I reviewed it or did impressions on it.
Yeah,
but there definitely was one a while ago.
It was like a Nickelodeon game, something like that. I don't remember, but that wasn't good. And there have been a lot of Power Rangers games that come out recently, and every time it does happen, I think to myself, man, I'd kill for a legit Power Rangers game. So for this, $20 covers a lot of the history of the show. I'm about it. I think it has some potential in concept. Will it be a good fighter? Will it be busted? I don't know. But when I was looking at some of the gameplay, visually it doesn't look that great, but moveset wise, I liked what I saw. It had a Killer Instinct on the Xbox One look and feel to it, which is a fighter that I adore, and I still say to this day, when the Xbox One first launched, that was the best game to come out for that system, and it still is one of the best exclusives for Xbox One. It is a really good fighting game. I don't know what's changed with it, but I thought it was a fucking blast back then.
Trying to look to see if I reviewed it. No, I guess I didn't.
No, I don't.
I remember playing it,
yeah,
but I don't remember what happened.
It was like a side scroller with like cartoon-looking sprites, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know.
I was looking at some other people's videos of it.
Yeah, and it got. Was it Angry Joe?
He did. Yeah, he was the number one.
I was gonna say someone tore it up about how bad it was. And I thought it was you, but I might be thinking of Battle Crashers. You did Cartoon Network?
Yeah, I did Battle Crashers, but I also did, I think you're thinking Steven's Universe. Or Steve's...
that might be it.
Battle Crashers. Yeah, no, that is the game. It's like Battle Crashers something. Yes, I did. I did review that one, for sure. And did destroy it.
Yeah, I was going to say, and that one was exponentially bad. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, with Power Rangers, you said this is something you're gonna check out.
I'll check it out.
Is it on the review schedule? You're looking at it like, yeah, we'll dive into it.
No, but if it pops up and they inform me and I have time, I would definitely play it. Like, see, the thing with Power Rangers is, I sort of liked it, but if the game is good, it wouldn't matter if I didn't even know the IP. Like, if I start to enjoy it, I'll enjoy it. It's just. If it's only $20, it might be worth reviewing just because so many people will hold it. They'll hold it accountable like a $60 game, even though that's not fair. And I love doing those reviews and being like, bitch, listen, it's $20 fucking. You're not going to get Star Wars Battlefront 2 fucking graphics in a $20 game. So sometimes I like to cover those to sort if there's a little gem in there that it's like, holy shit, this is a fun gauntlet style beat 'em up, or Streets of Rage, which is one of my favorite games of all time. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's just I have to look a little closer at it. I just saw stills of it and it looked pretty rough.
Yeah.
Rough.
I got you.
Rough.
Yeah. It's a game that I hope I can make some time for, because there's been so many fighters coming out. There's Smash, Jump Force, now Mortal Kombat, and then we're seeing this as another fighter. It's becoming a saturated field where diving into 1,000,001 fighters is, I personally think it's never a good idea, because how do you become good at one when each fighter tries to play vastly different from its competition? So it's hard to become a very formidable opponent if if you can't master one fighting game and you hop to the other. You're just jack of all trades, master of none, pretty much. Anyway, just a little short news bit there. Nothing crazy. Just
I think personally, it would have been much more enjoyable to see Platinum Games announce that they were.
Oh yeah, I mean, anything Platinum Games does at this point,
But I mean, I think that one fits because I think that they probably internally hate the fact that Ninja Turtles was so bad. I think that any company remembers their negatives. Well, when I talk to the Vermintide guys and I bring up Escape from Dead Island, which is a fucking terrible game, they remember it. Yeah, and they remember it. Like it's become a joke amongst us, where I'll be like, "This isn't no Escape from Dead Island, is it?" I'll be like, "No." So hopefully, but they remember it as a. That's the thing. Mistakes. Yeah, they do. And so, like, the idea of them having done Korra, which wasn't received well, and having done Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and haven't done well, there's other, cartoon type of things that that fits. And I think, personally, Power Rangers fits Platinum more than almost anybody else. I think they could do a fit. And has Platinum ever done a 2D... Has Platinum ever done a fighter versus fighter Mortal Kombat style game? Ever? That would be sort of interesting to see them take that on, too.
It would remind me of Arc System, who does, like, Blaze Blue and stuff. Or Dragon Ball Fighters. That's what I think of, personally, because it's just fast, action-packed, and it's graphically, or it's aesthetically pleasing to the series it's tied to. I could see them doing something like that. That'd be cool. Anyway, moving on. What do we got next? Ace Combat, Karak. This is all you. You reviewed it. You wanted to talk about it.
It's so fucking good, man.
Ooh,
it's so fucking good.
That's what I like to hear.
It's too bad you don't have the PSVR because even though I think there's 4 excellent renditions of PSVR games, which is the Star Wars VR missions that you can do for Battlefront, which are PSVR exclusive, Astrobot, Resident Evil 7, which is phenomenal. But dude, Ace Combat, I was by myself. Well, not by myself at this point, but I was playing the normal version by myself for hours, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to test out the VR version. Fucking get my headset out. It's all dusty. I'm like, God, this thing, it's not going to, not going to be a fan. Took my meds to not fucking throw up everywhere. And I turn it on, and I'm playing, and I get my joystick out. I even bought a joystick to test it, to verify joysticks work for this game, because I know a lot of people going to want to play it. And I pull up, and shit's going on around you. Like, amazing shit. Like, airplane crash. You're taking off from a battlefield, basically. And as I take off, and I fucking throw it back and just gun it, my stomach was like, yep, we're in an airplane. Like, there was absolute, because I've been in an airplane. It was my stomach had no fucking idea I was not currently in an F-16 trying to get to the sun. Like, it was fucking phenomenal. And I am telling you, they did such a good job with the design, because the PSVR's resolution isn't great. But what they did was they made sure that all the instruments that you would ever use in the pancake version, the flat version, or ever need, were very visible. So you would look down and you could see your radar very visibly. That had a lot of extra processing just for that, even though some of the other switches and stuff were difficult to read because they didn't care about that. They were there. You could see that there was something, but you would never use them in this game. And there are few things more enjoyable than flying through another person's explosive innards. And that's what you do through the entire game. Like, you blow somebody up, they're on fire, you see the pilot coming out, their parts are exploding, and you fly through them, and you're just like, yeah, this is fucking unbelievable.
I've never played Ace Combat. Is this almost arcadey in its nature, or is it?
It's one step above arcade.
Okay.
One step above arcade, one step below sim. It's right in the middle. Where, like, for example, real jets fight many times nowhere near within view. So they'll shoot a missile. Missile's got 100-mile fucking radius, right? So they may not see each other. 12 miles for some of the, like, Sidewinders kind of stuff. So what Ace Combat does is truncates that, so you can usually see them. And then it basically is an arcade game with some requirements. And what they did on this one was they made the requirement not about, like, the requirement wasn't about absolutely perfectly controlling your jet. It was about potential energy, which is it's the equivalent of making sure your jet is always moving forward at its fastest speed, which allows you to pull off your best maneuver. So potential energy to a pilot is, always making sure you're moving as quick as possible and understanding any special move you do is going to burn off speed. And they made it perfect. It fits. Like I was pulling off, because I know a couple, I have friends who are pilots who have taken me up in planes, Immelman's, special, certain Russian maneuvers, stuff like that, snakes. And you're able to pull them off in this. Wow. And dude, it's amazing. Like you'll come up behind a bomber and you already are like, fuck, I'm going too fast. So you do like a high G turn, burn off a bunch of speed, and you end up right behind them, fire your missiles, fucking their parts explode. Nice. Then their parts will come off of them and then secondarily explode. So like if they have a missile on their wing, the wing will break off, start to fall off, and then that'll explode. And you're flying through this debris. It's hitting windows. And then you go into like clouds. You can't see shit. Water condenses everywhere. And they did an amazing thing with the sound. They muffle it. So when you go into like fog, the music goes like, instead of going like boom, 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 it's all like everything gets contained and condensed, and the sound of your jet goes like, instead of like, it's all, and it changes to this weird cotton sound. It is fucking awesome. And you'll come out and you're just completely blind until the water and ice melt off of your jet. Yeah, it is fucking so good, man. It is all, and the pancake version, which is the other parts of the game, work really well as well. Like it's easily my favorite Ace Combat of all time and one of my favorite games this year already. Like it's just second to none enjoyable from start to finish. I mean, it is a blast. They do such a good job of making sure missiles feel like they're powerful, but not so powerful that you just fire it and you're done. And I just think it's cool because it's been 10 years. They did a non-numbered version called Assault, I think, which was terrible. But since Ace Combat 6, it's been 11 years, actually. So this is the first true Ace Combat sequel in 11 years. And like, it's so nice because I was looking at reviews today and it got like 9s out of 10s from a lot of people. I'm like, fuck, that thing, some people didn't like it. That'll always happen. But it got some amazingly good scores. And I was really happy to see that, especially for a PSVR title. Or has PSVR functionality.
How would you pitch this to someone like me who has not played a Ace Combat game ever? For me growing up, I don't know what it has been. For example, in Battlefield, I always was boots on the ground. I did not like getting in the tanks. I did not like getting in the vehicles because, how do I word it? It's so fucking dumb, but I always thought it was cheap. I was just like, no, if I'm not running around, it's almost like a pride thing, I feel. Like, no, if I'm not running around with my gun out, getting the people killed, then, I'm not that good at the game. And it was almost like I was proving something to myself, I guess. And I got more satisfaction out of playing the game that way. As someone who predominantly doesn't like using vehicles in their gameplay, what would you do to convince me that, hey, you should give this game a try?
It requires skill, number one.
I've never even seen anything also for this game. I genuinely don't know a thing about it. I know it was coming out. I know Namco Bandai's involved somehow. I think they're publishing it. That's all I know, though. That's literally all I know.
I mean, well, it requires skill. That's the one thing. Like, for example, if you have guns and you're going against guys on the ground and guys in the air, and you have to protect somebody, it requires insane thought processes. Like, because imagine on the ground, most of the time on the ground, like, let's say you go into the underground in a tunnel and a shooter. There's an underground complex. You don't have to worry about what's above you. It's a 2D experience overall. Right. So this is the same exact requirements, but in 3D. And understanding how to do particular things. It's like Tony Hawk's Skate, where you had to understand you needed a certain speed to pull off a certain move on a ramp. All of that is translated to the speed of your airplane in this. All your special moves, anything you want to do, getting behind somebody. And because the missiles aren't perfect, far less perfect than in real life, and because it's so hard to hit somebody with guns, it becomes unbelievably immersive. So, like, there were times where I was flying upside down, pulling negative Gs while flying up, twisting, trying to get underneath a bomber that was firing at me, and all I'm seeing is blue sky, just like a real pilot would see.
Right.
And my stomach was like, what the fuck? I mean, and you look out and you see, like, shit flying. You pull up behind and it would be like Forza, but in air. Like the requirements, the technical requirements to get behind somebody or to do particular things are not always that high, but they're high enough, especially on the difficult, which is really difficult. Trying to get behind somebody is insane. Imagine trying to get a bead on the best player in a shooter. If you put this on hard, it is easily that hard, if not harder. I mean, you will sit there for like 7 minutes. If you put it on hard, you don't have to do this, but if you put it on hard, you can spend 7 minutes trying to get behind the enemy to get a rocket off, because they're pulling, they're doing Immelmans and shit, and you're pulling S-turns, and no matter what, you can't get behind them. And they're always consistently trying to get behind you. So it's this insane time frame where you're always looking. You're like, where the fuck are they? Because they flew past you. Right. And you're like, did they go up? Did they go down? If they went down, they're gaining potential energy. Plain speak, they're gaining velocity. If they're going up, they're burning it. So it's like, okay, well then I'll go down and try to gain while they're losing, so that I can try to, drop and then turn behind them. Dude, it's so hard to explain, other than it is fucking, it's like a controllable roller coaster with missiles the entire time. And it is fucking awesome. And then there's boss creatures. So you're playing the normal game, and of course it's in the future in a fantasy world.
Wait, really?
Well, I say creatures. Sorry, I shouldn't have said creatures. Bosses. So like they'll have a massive 18-engine bomber jet that's got fucking SAM rocket launchers on it. And you have to take out all of its engines while at the same time fighting off MiGs and all this other shit. And there's multiple boss stages in all of them.
Wow.
So, and then it'll have different, you'll take off from one of the funniest missions. You're a prisoner when you start the game, and they're not going to give you any bullets. They're like, we just want you to fly up into the sky and make the enemy think that there's jet fighters up there. So just become a target. And it's a very unique way of teaching you the mechanics, because you can't shoot anybody. You just have to be like, what the fuck? And they even explain it. And remember, in World War II, this actually happened, where some troops were sent into battle, and their only job was to run around and wait for one of their friends to die to pick up the gun. That's been repeated in Call of Duty games and so forth. So it's not necessarily unknown to have something crazy like this occur.
Right.
And then every jet, there's 25 plus jets, they all act completely different. So you get one that's insanely fast that can't turn very well, and then you get like the A-10, which is insanely slow, but fucking almost rips itself apart on fast turns. And then you're inside, like there's a battle that you do inside, or basically in the valleys of like Peru. And so there's these huge stone pillars that you're like, trying to fly through sideways so that you can get a bead on a MiG. And there's like trees you have to watch out for. It's phenomenal, dude. It's everything about an arcade shooter I've ever wanted to play. But again, you don't play these. So like, it's difficult to say it's for a person who doesn't play them. I will just say that the skill required in Ace Combat games has always been considered to be high. And when you put it on hard in this game, I would say it is some of the hardest maneuvering you will ever have to do to get a beat on somebody. Imagine that person you played who's good at a shooter, and they know where to go, and they're leaping up on things, and all you want to do is just hit them. You're like, I just want to fucking shoot him with a bullet. But that's the way all the enemies would be in this. Okay. And then you have partners, teammates who talk to you and stuff like that.
Is there multiplayer out of curiosity?
There is. Yeah, there's team, and there's deathmatch. Deathmatch is okay because it's just like, hey, everybody kill everybody. Mm-hmm. That can get sort of gnarly pretty quick. But the team deathmatch is awesome because you all choose different planes. So if my plane's slow but has long-range missiles, I can wait it out while the faster, more nimble ones who have to get closer are getting closer, and I'm sort of sitting back going slow in my big, beefy plane.
Right.
And so there's almost classes in a way, because like the A-10 is this monster. It's considered a bathtub on wings. I mean, that's what you're sitting in, is this almost impervious bathtub. And you're flying this very slow thing. So all these other people are jetting, and you're just waiting. It's almost like a capital ship in a space game. And you're waiting, and you get close enough, and finally you can launch your shit. And you can hear other people go like, oh, fuck! Because like you'll just be like, chick. And some of your missile banks will lock onto 8 enemies. So you have your missiles will just go, and they shoot out like a Robotech cartoon. And everybody has to worry about you now. And so that gives people on your team the ability, during that brief moment of everybody panicking, to get behind those enemies.
Right.
And I've actually seen it where my missile's coming up on the right, so the enemy decides to turn left and bank down, and that's where the guy who was on my team was waiting for him to go and fucking hits him with a rocket on the way into the turn. Because usually you turn in like this and you hope the missile goes behind your airplane. And so as they're doing that, somebody will fly in front of them and fire guns, knowing they're going to track a certain way, or fire missiles to catch them flying directly into them. Dude, it's fucking hard to describe, man. But I'm telling you, like,
it's like a lot of leading your shot.
A lot of trying to figure out where the other person's going to go. And like, I was by myself that first time I put that VR on, and I'm like, holy shit. And I hear my wife laughing. She's like, what are you doing? You're saying holy shit like every 6 minutes. And we videotaped. I'm not showing anybody this videotape, or recording, but we did record me because I wanted her to record me playing a VR game.
In your underwear or something.
Dude, no. It's just, I look like a dope. But I mean, I'm like, what the fuck? Oh shit. Oh fuck. You know, looking around and just in a total panic. Because you only get 1 or 2 hits and then you're dead, you know, because you're an airplane.
Really? Okay, so it's
I
mean, that makes sense. I just had never considered, because like you said, it's like somewhat above arcade, so I thought, okay, maybe health bars,
well, you have
that
chaff.
type of stuff.
You have chaff, which is radar absorbent material, or radar material that goes out and confuses, or flares that confuse a missile. Gotcha. So you have a couple of those. But dude, and then you have ground forces. One of the best missions in VR is a mainly ground force mission, and I am telling you, it is so fucking unbelievably fun to get super low to the ground. You see like trees and shit coming up under you because you're flying so low to the ground, you're busting up the terrain. And you fly under power lines, and then you go straight up in the air. You pull straight up, and you can look, because you got the VR headset on. You can look back over your wing, and you see the SAM rocket, and you fucking see like you hear like a boop, 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 and the SAM rocket's like, and you see it launching, and you're like, that's after me. And then you have to time it. And there were times where I'd time it, twist the fucking wings, and the fucking SAM rocket would be like, and you can hear it like just past you, and then you come down and take them out.
Making a good case for me to want to get a PSVR.
Dude. And that's the thing.
Sounds fun as shit.
I think the next PSVR is going to be great because this one has low res. But if you add Skyrim, which I had forgotten, if you add Skyrim, Resident Evil 7, Astrobot, and this, and there was one other one. Beats, yes, for sure, Beat Saber. But there was another one I mentioned. Oh, Star Wars VR missions, right, which is basically this, but in space. If you could borrow one, it would absolutely be worth it, as long as you knew that you might need a Dramamine or something, just in case you take one a little early.
Dramamine before flights.
Yeah, so do I. I even have them. I even have boning. Yeah, I've even got them right here. Like, I have ones for playing it. But I played so long that the medication wore off, and then I was violently ill. I played for 12 hours in a row without taking the headset off, and about 6 hours in, I was like, I think the medication's running off, but I'll be fine. I played another 6 hours before I finally had to take it off.
Twisted addiction of VR. I'll be all right.
Dude, it's, and you're never supposed to do that. I warn people, never do that.
I was at Universal Studios this last week, and a lot of their rides are virtual, so they pretty much put you in a cart themed based off the ride you're getting on. They bring you up into a room, and the visuals will match the feeling, so if you're going to go downhill,
I didn't know that.
They'll throttle the ride forward, but you can't really tell that's what's happening because they simulate it so well. It's actually very cool. It's something I personally didn't expect, and so that's what I'm kind of getting. And so what I was getting at is, once I got off a lot of those rides, I felt very queasy, we'll say.
Yeah.
So
and with VR, one pill will usually work. Like Boning's non-drowsy. You just take it 30 minutes, 20, maybe 15 minutes is probably fine. But I will say though that, like, I play all VR systems I own. I think I own every headset, and even though I own every one and I would love for it to be higher res, their development team did an incredibly smart job by making sure that what you needed to see was crystal clear, or as clear as the PSVR was able to do.
Okay.
And to see the headset just like a real pilot sees, with like your numbers telling you if you're left.
Match for it.
Yeah, it just worked, man. And it's the worst example of why, or it's the best example of why I hate exclusivity, because there's probably no chance of this coming to PC VR. And yet at the same time, it's not the entire game. It's only a couple missions. So it's like, here's something amazing, but only a little bit of it on a system that doesn't really make it look the best. And you're like, are you kidding me?
Oh, so VR
Because,
is its own separate
yep, own
entity?
separate missions.
Its own, oh, okay.
Yeah, just like Star Wars VR
Yeah.
battles, same thing. Astrobot's real, Skyrim's real, Resident Evil's real. They're full games. Fallout, one day I hope to see Fallout on it. But unfortunately, this one is only 4 levels and 4. On the other hand, each mission's about an hour, so it's about 4 hours of VR. And then they change; they're dynamic, so it's like, different enemies could show up, or
Gotcha.
the way you handle things could change.
Interesting. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, dude.
Definitely one I'm going to look into. The thing is, like I told you on last episode, I'm chipping through Yakuza Kiwami 2. Playing a lot of Smash, obviously because reviews are coming. Well, Resident Evil's in how many days?
Next week.
Yeah, I was gonna say Resident Evil supposedly next week, so I'm not gonna sit here and act like I'm guaranteed a review copy. I'm gonna cross my fingers, but the worst thing you can do is start a new game and then a review comes in. You go, oh,
Yeah.
like obviously I got to put this down for the review. And if it's something like Resident Evil 2, which is looking great, then I have no problem for that. But obviously it's a issue you'd like to avoid by not starting too many games at once. So it's one I'm gonna look into. Maybe it'll be a Christmas game or something. That might be cool.
Yeah. I mean, if you just had a friend who had one, so you could
That's the thing, I
play
don't.
just. Yeah, and I think that's the thing is like it sold pretty well, but not when you could spread it around the world and assume how many PS4s there are.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be too bad there isn't a rentable service or something, because I don't think it's worth a full thing. But
Even
to
with
see
the
it,
combination, because that's the thing. I've been looking into the VR because I feel like to understand
if
that part of the
Fallout
medium.
if Fallout was on the PSVR, if Fallout 4 was, because I believe Fallout 4 is a completely different game in VR. Like I just so difficult to even describe.
Mm-hmm.
So if Fallout 4 was also available, I would say it might be worth it. But right now, Sony just sells it too expensive.
Okay, gotcha.
eBay, on the other hand, like if you can get it on eBay for $50 or $75 off, well then,
thought trying to get someone else's eyewear. I've gotten styes before because of that. I got a sty because I watched what was it, Coco? I watched that in 3D.
and use the glasses.
Yeah, and the glasses gave me a sty, and that's happened twice to me. And I was surprised because in a lot of these rides at Universal, they're having you throw on the glasses, and I said to my girlfriend, "Babe, I really hope I don't get a sty," and thank God I didn't, because every time when I got them, I just grabbed those fuckers, put them in my shirt, and I scraped those goddamn.
Or have
lights.
buy those cheap medical, alcohol swabs. I guess I didn't think about that. Yeah, I mean the nice thing I will say about the VR system for PSVR is it's not at your eyes. It's at your forehead. So it's about here.
Okay.
So it rests here and hangs down completely, not touching your eyes. So it's about here. So the weight rests here and here, and then the headset comes down and you can move it closer and farther away from your face, but it never comes anywhere near your eyes. It's probably like this.
Okay.
So it never comes close to your eyes, but you could still clean it if you wanted, because it's got a
Okay,
a
so
ring
that's definitely
that
good
blocks
to know
out
then. Okay, that's a difference maker for sure. If I'm trying to save some money on that, that's a difference maker. No, it's not like not touching.
Yeah,
because I've worn a PSVR headset, but there's a considerable spacing there.
Yeah.
That's
But no,
good.
I get you. I mean, it's getting somebody else's. You have no clue if the dude was watching fucking porn and jacking off under the goddamn headset, right? You have no clue. You gotta take the good with the bad on that shit. So I get you fully.
Yeah, absolutely. Last on the list, we got a slew. I said slew.
Slew.
Sleuthing is, I think that's something for like getting gold out of a river or something.
Sleuthing is investigating. When you're a sleuth,
Wait, hold
you're
on.
a gumshoe.
Now I need to investigate something now. Seriously. Because my dad used to do gold. Is it sleuthing? Hold on. Because my mom used to make fun of him for it. Gold sleuth.
Sluice. That's a sluice box. It's the shake
There
box
we go.
that you get. Yeah.
Close. Sluice.
Very close.
Sluice. We had a slew. Something with slew of Dragon Ball news, though, this last week. We're going to be talking about that to cap off the show. What do we have? A new Dragon Ball game was announced during a live stream that was really hyped up by Namco Bandai. It turned out to not be all fans wanted. However, as a super fan of Dragon Ball, I was very satisfied to know that the Dragon Ball Heroes card game from the arcades is coming over to the US, I think in April or March. But it's coming over, and it looks like a good time. I am a fan of the Dragon Ball spin-offs because, for example, a little 3DS game that a lot of my viewers recommended to me called Dragon Ball Fusions came out in 2016. Really underrated game. It's a strategy-based Dragon Ball game where you collect characters from the universe and then you fuse them together. So it's not canon, so you can fuse together Nappa and Raditz and make Naditz or something like that. It's really fucking awesome, especially as a Dragon Ball fan. It is such a cool concept. So seeing a spin-off like an arcade version, something like this, is up my alley. Karak, I know you thought it was pretty cool.
Yep.
So
yep. It actually, I know I saw somebody giving you shit, right? Or somebody was giving us shit on Twitter.
So someone in the thread was like, "It's not what we wanted," or something like that.
Yeah, and I was so confused by that because I was like, "Didn't you just play Dragon Ball? Didn't Fighter Z come out like fucking last year?"
Yeah.
Like, it's fine with me. I mean, let them do different stuff. Let them do side, 0.5 kind of thing. So, no, I'm very excited for it.
I have some bias because, there's the Dragon Ball card game, which me and Takedown have talked about to a very high extent. And then, obviously, this is sort of like a card game. Not the exact same thing, but it's got a card game element to it. So, I'm definitely intrigued by it.
I played every Yu-Gi-Oh on the fucking DS, all of those monster card games, any of that kind of stuff. I absolutely think that's a great way to get. What if some kid sees that and goes, "This is a cool looking creature," and it's like, well, guess what? In this fighting game, you can become that creature.
Yeah.
Jesus. Okay.
That's how it happens.
I think it's awesome.
It's building blocks. It's absolutely building blocks because. It could go from a show to a game. Oh, hey, this character's cool. Oh, now I can interact with him by playing him in a fighting game. We could all name experiences like that.
Yep.
The other really cool news for Dragon Ball was announced after this, oddly enough, not during the show, was that there is a Dragon Ball Z RPG starting this year. They said in 2019, like that. I don't know if it's coming out this year. But they're saying learn more at the Dragon Ball Fighters World Tour, which is on the 26th of January.
You have that shit on a calendar?
I do, yeah. You saw me look over.
Nerd. Yeah, it was awesome. I saw you go I was like, oh, shit, he's got that on a calendar. Are you going to watch it?
Absolutely. I'm going to watch it because...
Are you going? Is it local?
No.
Oh, okay.
I don't know where it is. But considering the tweet was written in Japanese, I imagine the World Tour for Fighters would be in Japan. That's just a guess. But the reason I have it written down is because I do want to cover it. RPGs are my bread and butter on my channel.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
I can finally blend in Dragon Ball
Your
into
love
that. Yeah, exactly.
everything.
Like it reminds me of what happened with Fallout, where my channel first started growing for Fallout. I love Fallout to death. And so I'm surprised, not to go off topic real quick, but when we were talking about products tainting your view of a series, I'm surprised I didn't mention 76 and what it kind of did to Fallout for me, where it's not as appealing to touch Fallout right now. It's still one of my favorite series, but it definitely, I'm just like, right now.
Yeah.
Probably because I covered it a ton. But anyway, it reminds me of when Fallout started growing my channel, and I was like, wow, Fallout and content, like that's all you could dream of. And I did it for years and years. And the idea that an RPG for Dragon Ball, it's something I could try, I could try to. I know our like Japanese style stuff isn't particularly my wheelhouse in terms of growing my channel, but I'll be damned if I'm not going to give it a really good shot, because I would love nothing more than to have a Dragon Ball game help grow my channel.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to check it out. I didn't even see that announcement. I only heard about it when you were talking about it. The last one I saw was the pseudo card game thingy.
Yeah, let me grab the tweet actually, because I freaked out about it on my account. Here it is. In 2019, the project of a new game focusing on the world of Dragon Ball Z begins, and more news coming to Dragon Ball Fighters. The warrior from Universe 11 is joining the fight. So for those who don't know, that is Jiren, which he was further confirmed in like a magazine for Dragon Ball Fighters. So he's like the main villain during the Universe saga or Universe arc in Dragon Ball Super at the end. This is more information to be revealed at the Dragon Ball Fighters World Tour Finals in January 26th to the 27th. So yeah, we're getting, it says the project of a new game focusing on the world of Dragon Ball Z begins. That is really exciting, because that sounds like an open world game nonetheless. we've seen a lot of Dragon Ball games do an overworld. One of the Tenkaichi games did it where you would fly from battle to battle, and there were little secrets you can discover around the map itself. But there is so much potential in this. The original rumor I'd read was last March that this would be a Dragon Ball game set in the original Dragon Ball universe, which is still cool, but there weren't as many characters to really toy around with. Whereas Z, there's just so much more to work with. What I hope is that this RPG system is more like a strategy fighter, because Dragon Ball strategy games are very underrated. They provide a lot of elements. Like I said, fusions is another example. That is not only a really cool concept, but it is a fantastic strategy game. If you like Dragon Ball, play it. I wouldn't be against an action battle system. I just see that being really watered down with all the characters and the inclusion of their moves. I see that just being something like Xenoverse, which is awesome, but then it becomes too samey. Make something that feels separate, that feels different. Where do you stand on it? What do you expect from this?
The only thing I really care about is that my hope is that it's good at introducing new people to the fiction.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's really at a loss whenever I hear anybody start talking about the cartoons or anime. Okay. I'm always like, because there's so, it's like, oh, what is this version of that version, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Would you rather it be create your own character and enter into the universe?
Yep.
Or would you want to play as the characters through their story?
No, I'd much rather play as a created character, but that's just me.
Right.
That's just me liking created characters in superhero, any kind of fighters, anything. But overall, on an RPG also, I just think it's easier because when there's an established focus of a certain type of character, then sometimes I want to know how they would act. I'd be like, well, how would this character act? But if it's just me making a character, I'll be like, bitch, I'll do what I want. So I think I would rather make my own just for me. It would just make me happier. But yeah, no, I'm excited for it. I want anything like that then I'd be able to play. It'd be interactive. And then sometimes you'd be able to pick, like if they say, if for some reason, they did a good job with like passing out data about the prior cartoons, prior shows, prior generations, and they do it in the game, I think I would also just not pay more attention, pick up and retain more of it in a game form and in interactive form than I would reading a wiki or even just watching the cartoon maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there is an entry point for everybody. I think Xenoverse 1 was a really good place, and obviously Xenoverse 2 is so much like the first one that the best entry point now is the second. But I thought that was a good starting point for the franchise, because what I feel is if you didn't know anything about Dragon Ball at that point, chances are the initial storylines did not intrigue you. So Xenoverse sets out to put you and your created character in there, and they alter the timeline a little bit so it's not the exact same thing that you've been hearing about for decades. And instead it is something different, which does bring in a new audience, because it's not just Goku's story and his friend's story. It is now your story and how the timeline is messed up, and seeing a different version of that, which can appeal to both audiences too. So yeah. And did you like the universe when you played it?
Very much so.
Cool. All right. Yes, because I thought that was a good entry point. Fighters, I love it, but it's too chaotic, I feel, to be and the story's pretty like it's.
Oh, I think the story's a little bouncy. Yeah, sort of bounces around in that one.
I like it as a Dragon Ball fan, but that's as a Dragon Ball fan. As a original story that tries to get you invested in it, it's not going to do the trick.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of these games that from anime struggle with that same thing of making a compelling story that is original and does not take from its source material too much, and does bring in a new audience because it's so good. Even Attack on Titan, the first one, which was so good, it's because of its gameplay. It's the same exact story from the show. I would love to see this game break that mold and try an original story that, yes, borrows from arcs that happen as the world of Dragon Ball Z progresses, but you're almost like a parallel going along it in your own path, not just getting involved like, oh, here's Goku fighting Frieza, and this is how you got involved in that. It's like, no.
Right.
Let's put them in the world of Dragon Ball Z so the characters are there. We're gonna go, not back on our word a little bit, but find a good part in the timeline where it makes some sense to pull from these various arcs. Maybe make it after all this, what would be really interesting is if after this, I mean, that's pretty much what Super is, but after all this, there's like a little space, we put ourselves there, and it's like now there's a new story happening, and they're filling in that blank. That they have to take that approach with this because they're saying in the world of Dragon Ball Z, and since Super already happened, you can't really. You have to now take the approach that, for example, the Assassin's Creed team took with Legacy of the Blade. It sucks, which is the only concerning aspect about it. But if they say World of Dragon Ball Z and they mean just we're using the characters from that part of the universe and not the characters from Super, which are largely the same outside of some, then that's another story. That would be interesting to see what they build with that. But let's see, anything else Dragon Ball related? No, it was just the game, Jiren, and the open world title. So that's all we have for you this week, ladies and gentlemen. Karak, thank you once again for joining me on.
Yeah, it was a blast.
A great episode. Yeah, man. Really long discussion here. We're just nearing 2 hours. So we thank you, the listener, for taking the time to make us a part of your Sunday or Friday or Saturday if you are a patron. And we'll catch you guys in next week's episode 187. Peace out.
Peace out.